in the EU. What needs to happen in your mind, Supatis, to actually see the repeat victory from the Bergen boys? What are you looking for to see that happen again?
I think the blind pick.
Yeah.
Saying before the break. I mean, the blind pick matters a lot. If they lock in their Warlock and they get the Boomkin Ellie, they are so happy. They are literally the happiest team ever. But if they don't lock in the Warlock and they lock in the Frosty K and they do lock in Boomkin Ellie, then they're sad. They're the saddest team ever. So, all right, they've decided to come in.
Spoiler alert, they're sad.
They're slightly less sad though. Slightly less sad because it didn't go Frost. It went Unholy. Unholy DK can do pretty well here. They could do a split strategy. Whereas with the Frosty K, Frost Death Knight literally is AFK. They don't do anything against double spellcaster. The way that the wizards can max range each other, it's so hard to get anything going. So I'm glad that the Bergen boys kind of heads up that and didn't lock in the Frosty K. They might not be totally out. And if they actually manage to win with the Unholy DK into the Moonkin Ellie, then Wildcard Gaming don't really have a guaranteed answer anymore.
All right, guys. Well, the gates are about to open. Blind pick here on the Grand Arena. Who is going to strike first blood? Will it be the Bergen boys or will it be Wildcard Gaming? You already heard. This blind pick is going to be crucial to setting the tide of this battle.
Yeah, it's going to be such an important match, this one. The Grand Arena, it was so close between these two teams on Friday. Now they're going to be battling it out the first map. And one thing I really do like about this for Wildcard Gaming, you know, when you think back to 2019, their Warrior Mage Mistweaver really was the standalone composition fighting against a sea of rogue mages. And here, once again, they're bringing out classes that we typically don't see in high-level PvP. You know, you've got the Moonkin here, you've got the Elemental Shaman. Both of those have been kind of stepping up, I think, as more and more haste is available on the end tier gear for the end of the expansion. But regardless, they're the only team running it, and they have been running it to success so far in this tournament.
All right, let's see what they can get done here. Looney not running Ineffable Truce, so running full versatility. Beautiful crowd control across the board right now. Huge burst damage into Joel. Anti-magic shield, though, and a couple death strikes. He should be back in commission. Looking to march towards the balance druid, and I do think splitting targets isn't a bad idea. At the moment, they're both just attacking Zeepai, and that's leaving Maro completely open. He's been getting so many Cyclones onto Burley. He can now switch over and potentially Cyclone Munkarn at low health. I think that's what he's aiming to do. Gets grounding totemed on the Cyclone, looking for another. Finds it on Munkarn, making it annoying for Burley. Lassoing Joel so Munkarn can't interrupt him. Joel decides to use his Icebound Fortitude to deny the Lightning Lasso. Now Cycloned on his Icebound Fortitude. I really don't think they can afford to stay out in the open like this. They have two options. One is get back to the pillar and heal up, Death Grip them to the pillar and try and live, or just lose right now. Spiritling Totem and Trinket have to trade out, or they have to do a split where the Windwalker chases the Ellie and the DK chases the Boomkin. But if they leave any spellcaster completely open, they're going to be torn apart, as they are.
Yeah, I mean, they're just dying. This is crazy. You know, you were talking about Burley as potentially the best shaman in Europe right now. He's really struggling with the power of the elements and the stars here from Wildcard Gaming. So much damage. Now a full Hex connected by Zeepai. This could be Nights Out. We've got Joel using his anti-magic shell. He doesn't have any cooldowns left. Now full Hammer of Justice connects from Looney. The Star Surges get the kill in just 2 minutes. The Moonkin Elemental has secured the game. And we talked about how big that game one could be. What a win for Wildcard.
Let's actually talk about the Moonkin a little bit. I saw chat instantly freak out when they did see the Moonkin. Sid, this isn't the first time that we've seen Moonkin in this tournament.
Yeah, this is the cleave counter that we see Wildcard Gaming have developed. And being Unholy didn't seem to work out either. Now, the strategy wasn't right. You can't just all run at the Elemental Shaman. You're going to get cross-crowd controlled and absolutely destroyed if you don't allocate your interrupts across everyone on the team here. Having one player on Mara, one player on Zeepai is very important, or you have to play at the pillar and play a Death Grip strategy. But playing this just run at the Ellie, they played into the hands completely of Wildcard Gaming, and it could just be a case of maybe they don't play against this composition. I mean, we haven't seen Boomkin in a long time, but the way that they played, they just walked completely into their hands. I love that Looney's team was willing to mix it up and switch targets. Going after the healer Burley, he's just Hammer of Justice out in the open. Hey, there's a shaman here. Let's okay, we're gonna turn hit him. Oh, we won the game. Nice, good job. Like being able to just turn around and switch targets is a great mid-game adaptation on their part. Being willing to do that, and they just played a great game one. And I'm excited to see what they lock in blind for game 2. If this is kind of their just overall blind because they know a Destruction Warlock's available. And are they going to play something different to deal with it, or just try and do more of the same?
Yeah, let's actually talk, Seiko, a little bit about if we do see this again, right? I want to know what the win conditions are for each side now that you actually did see the blind pick on the Grand Arena.
Well, I feel like this is a pretty hard counter against what the melee cleave of Bergen Boys is, playing. I feel like they just have so many win conditions on the side of Wildcard Gaming. We saw it right there, and Zeepai on his LA Shaman is so fun to see him back again. We saw Maru before, the actual kill happened. Maru got the Cyclone, he got the Root Beam. They force out Burley's Trinket. Burley, I think he used... he might have used the Essence to kind of redistribute his HP, and he lost about 50% of his HP. He got hexed, so his HP was kind of frozen around the 50% mark. And then as that hex was ending, Zeepai just targeted him in that Hammer of Justice and erased his account. And this is something Zeepai loves doing. When he is the target, he drags the melees away to the complete opposite side, and then when the healer starts to cross the map to be in range of healing the melees and dispelling them, he just swaps to the healer. Sometimes Maru will drop a Root Beam there, and it's always that CC the healer, go for the Windwalker, up the Karma, maybe swap back to the healer if you can't land a kill because he uses Trinket, and it's just Wildcard beat dominance.
Yeah, that is really something that we see from Looney, from Zeepai, just so good at creating that space, like from the window to the wall till the sweat actually drips down your forehead. It's very difficult to stay in tow with Wildcard Gaming when they get to play on some of their most comfortable picks. Now the question is, for the picks, as we do head to Hook Point, what are you expecting to see? As we do see Thunder coming in on the side of Wildcard Gaming healing stat.
Yeah, that's a very interesting blind pick. I mean, we've seen that this kind of back and forth that happened on Friday when the two teams met. So Wildcard Gaming, they don't want to just lock in something where they're going to get beaten as they did on Friday. They're going for a slightly different comp. And Zeepai, it's really interesting, this Elemental Shaman. And it's something that I'm never quite sure where to place, because on US ladder, you've got Smexin, who was playing a ton of Elemental Shaman, playing often with Magnus on the ladder. Very high success there with the high versatility build. But Zeepai is actually going full Gushing Wounds on the Shaman, which is pretty crazy because Elemental Shamans normally take a lot of damage. But you saw last game, they tried to touch him and they couldn't get anything going. So with Blizzard on his side now as well, the extra peels, the extra damage from the Arms Warrior, this is definitely a scary prospect. But of course, with the composition advantage in favor of Burley, you would think they would still have the upper edge in this one.
All right, this one's definitely going to be exciting. Zico, now that we do see these compositions, how do you feel about it?
I'm kind of intrigued. We haven't really seen Thunder as one of the, it's one of those comps that whenever it's good, it's usually really, really good, but it kind of comes and goes a little bit, and I'm kind of interested to see how they're going to perform with it. I feel like a Demon Hunter could be a pretty good answer to a lot of the things that Wildcard want to do. So having Monkarn on that Demon Hunter, I'm not sure how good he is on that Demon Hunter as well. I feel like there's a lot of, kind of testing that we're going to experience here. We're going to see how good is the Thunder, and also how good is Bergen Boys on this composition, how good is Monkarn on that Demon Hunter. I think it's going to be interesting.
I definitely think this is an interesting one. I think getting to see Thunder in and of itself is just a very exciting thing to be walking into here, Sid. I feel like, I guess it was really the beginning of BFA. This was one of the most popular compositions. It fell out of favor very quickly. I mean, Shaman in general, we see just so much less of. What do you think has started to cause its resurgence here to see Thunder now on Hook Point in a very important matchup, one that is in an attempt to get to the grand final for EU?
I mean, in the past, Elemental Shaman has been good into melee cleaves. They have good mobility with Ghost Wolf. They can knock back targets. They can just run around in circles. They have good instant damage, so they're not totally disrupted if they're being attacked. And then you just leave a warrior in battle stance while you're chasing the Elemental Shaman around, and he's going to have sweeping strikes. He hits 2 targets. He applies Mortal Strike. He has Sharpened Blade to reduce healing, which just synergizes well with the sustained damage of the Elemental Shaman. So, I mean, this is to me, is a good in-between pick to deal with a Destruction Warlock or a melee cleave, which the Bergen Boys are only. That's all they have, melee cleave and Warlock. I think this is really heads up. The only thing that you could play around with is the healer. What's the best healer for it? Is it Paladin or is it Monk? Because on the ladder, you see it almost exclusively played with Monk. I think this might be the first time I've seen it with Paladin and not a Monk or a Druid. Druid's not going to be picked, I think, right now in the current state, but I'm very interested to see how the Paladin performs.
Yeah, I'm just like, the wheels are very much turning right now in my head, too, because everything that you do see with Wildcard Gaming as well, it's hard not to just start thinking, what would it be like if they do end up going head-to-head with Method Black? Method Black already waiting in the grand final, but folks, it's time for game number 2 of this series on Hook Point. Whoever does win this will get their chance to take down Method Black in that best of 7 in the grand final. Will Wildcard Gaming get themselves on match point?
Yeah, this is definitely an important game for the Bergen boys. They won the first time they played against Wildcard Gaming on Friday. They really need this win. It's their map choice, it's their composition advantage. If they were to lose this one, it would look almost certain that our first European Grand Finals would be a repeat of the BlizzCon Grand Finals at the end of last year.
You just had to remind us that was all European affair, didn't you? You just
Well,
had to.
I'm here for that purpose.
The one and only time in any game at BlizzCon.
One thing that is interesting, though, is drawing those parallels, right? Like, I watch Sidu stream quite a bit, and he is often, asked questions in his stream chat about Bergen boys and Burley, like how they're so high on the ladder with these shaman cleaves. And we've seen Method Orange finding success in North America. Bergen boys also looking for it, and they have a very strong start here compared to the other game. The game 1 didn't go anything like this. Looney having to pop his Avenging Wrath early to top off his team and keep them aggressive.
All right, so Looney is playing the Avenging Light honor talent. All of his Holy Lights will deal damage to everyone around the target. It's an insanely huge amount of damage, especially when everyone is stacked up like a Demon Hunter and a Death Knight. Let's see how much pressure Looney can actually get out with that honor talent. Monkarn has been the target for some time. I think we'll see a swap to the Death Knight later in the dampening, but early on, they want to disrupt that metamorphosis as much as possible and potentially deny any incoming mana rifts from Monkarn as he is running that, but a swap maybe onto Burley. He's caught in a Hammer of Justice. They're forced to asphyxiate Blizzo. Blizzo breaks out of it to chase after the Shaman, playing quite aggressive. Looney begins to fall behind. He's not playing Ineffable Truth, so his Avenging Wrath is not going to cycle up nearly as frequently, opting for that Conflict and Strife, but this damage is quite intimidating. I mean, you're the Bergen boys. You're facing compositions that you really don't see very often. The Boomkin Elemental, the Warrior Elemental. Are they just going to be thrown for a loop?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. Blizzo's been taking a lot of damage. Looney has to use his Divine Shield here. There's so many cooldowns being forced out by the Bergen boys, but they're just going after Burley. Did anyone teach him that lightning sometimes does strike twice? He's able to survive. The darkness comes through, overlapped with the Trinket and the Ascendants. A lot of cooldowns on both sides and an explosive game 2 here. But Looney, as you said, he's not running the Ineffable Truth, isn't going to have access to that Divine Shield for a very long time. And they recognize that. They're going after him, but they are stunned. And they blow up Looney to tie up the series in this game.
It's going to be tied up indeed. Zico, let's actually break this one down. A very, very quick game is going to come out here on Hook Point.
Well, it certainly was a quick game. Looney didn't have his bubble from earlier, and he was kind of just being super aggressive there. I think he didn't expect that kind of swap to happen. Monkarn on that Demon Hunter, bringing a lot of damage, and I didn't think that was going to happen. Like, I feel like they had such a close call on Burley, like a second before that. They dropped the darkness, and I was just sitting there thinking, okay, well, Burley, he's going to die the next time he gets stunned. There's no darkness, there's no trinkets, and all of a sudden, they just turn on the heat, swap to Looney, activate their trinkets, and just remove him from the game.
Yeah, I think this is one of the reasons, though, as well, Supatis, that we kept talking about the blind pick being so important.
Yeah, now that the small map and the cleave, I mean, I don't know if you can completely check that comp out. I think this will be a comp that they probably play again. I just don't know if they'll play a Paladin or Mistweaver or change and run Ineffable Truth instead. I think if maybe they change their build a little bit on the Paladin, it could work, but that's the first time that we've really seen a Paladin targeted so relentlessly. I mean, normally they're playing with a mage and you're chasing their mage around the entire game, and you don't really get a chance to hit the paladin. But when they're not playing with a mage, they don't look nearly as durable as you would expect. So I'm wondering what Looney's going to change in that regard. I don't think that you can totally write off that Thunder. I think that is going to be their blind lock. I'm just wondering if they'll change the build or change the healer. Now moving into game 3, I expect them to pick a really big map. And then if you're the Bergen boys, they picked Tolvaron. So now you're the Bergen boys, you have to say it's a really big map. If we pick Melee Cleave, we're getting Boomkin Ellie. We're going to lose. It's just not going to happen. So do you bring in Destruction Warlock? If you do, then you're going to fight Warrior Mage, and you're probably not going to win. So do you just play something totally from left field? I mean, I feel like playing something totally from left field is fine, because even if they lose this... Wait, am I mixing this up here? No, they'll be in a lot of trouble if they lose this. They have to win a swing match to be able to take it back in their favor for game 5. So do they risk it now and play something that's a little bit left field? Like, just try something different? Like, what even could they try that's different? They've only got Windwalker Warlock. They could do Death Knight Warlock. I really don't think the Death Knight
we haven't
Warlock
seen
is
their
good.
DHDK before into
DHDK
Wildcard, right?
could be their blind,
So
yeah.
maybe they just blind it. I mean, it's a pretty sound composition all around, right? And they seem pretty good on it. They did a lot of damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's either they go with, you know, a different kind of cleave that we've seen, or they go with the Destro Warlock. And no matter what, they're probably going to fight a counter. They need to just figure out what is, you know, the harder counter.
Yeah, I think Supatis did a really good job of starting to break down what the flow of this one could look like. Starting to break down a script that really could exist with the back and forth, with the blind locking in of the format if you are coming off of that victory. And I do want to ask, before we really do start to focus on Tolvaron, do you think that Thunder still will be a composition that Wildcard Gaming does use on the blind, Zico?
Sorry?
Do you think that Thunder will still be a composition that we can see going in on the blind? Because Supatis was talking about how that might be something that we're looking at for the rest of the series. Not in this particular matchup, but do you think that that is a case that we could be looking at?
So let's assume here, Wildcard going to lock in a counter here and win the game. Next game, they're going to be blind locking. And I think a lot of it is going to depend on the map. But I'm assuming we're going to see some kind of small map in that scenario. And yeah, I think... Thunder probably is one of their best bets.
Okay.
Like, I feel like on a small map, it's the comp that has the best chance against the Warlocks and also against the melee cleaves. So despite losing there, they had kill opportunity as well. So I feel like maybe they lock in Thunder, but with a different healer as well. Like maybe Looney Druid. Like I could see something like that happening as well.
And now we are going to see that the Moonkin is back healing stat, and it's set up perfectly on Tolvaron Arena. A lot of pressure on that blind pick. They already did get this card in their pocket, and now Wildcard Gaming really does need to get the victory here to maintain that advantage.
Yep, they definitely do. The map choice, of course, has to be Tolvaron Arena, right? For the Moonkin Elementals, if you could imagine a better queue, you know, playing any composition on the ladder, you see Moonkin Elemental and Tolvaron Arena, you're not going to be too happy, especially when you see it's Looney and Z-Pie on the other side. So this is going to be a tough one for the Bergen boys. That said, the Demon Hunter, I don't think we have specifically seen this matchup between the two teams, and Demon Hunters, we know they have a lot of leech healing, a lot of self-sustained. It might be possible that he can kind of help Burley out with that self-healing. Death Knight's also capable of that, and maybe they can kind of catch Looney off guard or win the attrition war. It's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Definitely is going to be an interesting one to watch. If you are just tuning in, just want to remind you really quick, this is a series that is going to determine who gets to go to the grand final to play against Method Black, who is waiting there with a pocket full of spites. And then after that, after we do crown our champion, we do get to see in NA who is going to be the champion as well. So we got plenty of arena in store for you guys today. 8 series in total. And this one is going to set the stage for that grand final here on Tolvaron Arena. And the question is it going to stick to the script? Are we going to see that back and forth actually happen in Wildcard Gaming's favor? This is a rematch as well. We did see this on Friday. It was the biggest upset of the tournament, went all the way to Game 5, and the Bergen boys were able to take it. But the biggest difference was the fact that they were able to win that first game. So for anybody who's unfamiliar with the Moonkin, we have talked about it quite a bit. Super Tees, how does Wildcard Gaming win with the Moonkin composition?
Well, I mean, you have one win condition is just survive and do damage and just avoid pressure and win and dampening. The other one is cross crowd control. So they have Hex, they have Cyclone, and they have Root Solar Beam and Lightning Lasso. I think I said Lightning Lasso twice. But you want to use these all at the same time on different targets. So if you're killing the Demon Hunter, you Cyclone the Death Knight, you Hex the Shaman, you Lightning Lasso the Demon Hunter. All three players can't help each other, and then you burst down a target. You just rinse, repeat this over and over. You can Solar Beam the Shaman, clone the Death Knight, Lightning Lasso the Demon Hunter, but you want to make sure you're using those crowd controls all at the same time on a different target as much as possible, and you can win the game with burst damage. But your fallback plan is just keep dots up, more dots, do damage, and overrun them. I see this, actually, these two comps a lot when I watch Trend stream and when I watch Corky stream. So Corky plays the Moonkin Ellie a lot, and then Trend plays the Demon Hunter Death Knight, and it goes back and forth. So I wouldn't count Bergen Boys completely out, but they are disadvantaged on this map.
All right, well, the gates are now open. Let's see who will get themselves on match point.
Yep, this is a big one in the series, swing match potentially for the Bergen Boys if they can find it. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to how versed Monkarn is on this Demon Hunter. We saw in game one a ton of damage taking down Looney on the Holy Paladin, and one of the quicker games we see from Wildcard Gaming. Normally they like to drag them on a little bit, but here I think this is going to be the true test, because whilst Demon Hunters are quite good at self-healing themselves, they have the Leech and Metamorphosis and all of these things, they are susceptible to dying in stuns. And when you've got things like the Lightning Lasso on Zeepai, we're going to have to see really careful positioning and usage of cooldowns from Monkarn and Burley.
So this is the Cervantes strat. You just stay at the box and death grips anybody that comes close to the box and attack them. And then if they get away from the box, you just run to the other side of the box and wait till you have death grip. The counter to this is just attack all three people, so .Burley, .Joel, .Monkarn, and just try and cleave everybody down, which is exactly what Wildcard Gaming are doing. You can easily win on mana if they take too long to do something. You might just outright kill Monkarn. Anti-Magic Zone gets Thunderstormed. He instantly fell rushes back inside for safety. Now jumping on to Morrow. Morrow being pushed back as he was standing right on top of his opponents. He is forced off the box a little bit while charging to center field. Bergen Boys immediately retreating away. They want to wait for dampening. Death grip a target behind the pillar and burst it down, but triple Solar Beam. Monkarn, though, with a beautiful reverse magic, gets his whole team out of it. But follow-up Cyclone from Morrow. You can tell those crowd control skills developed on Mage translate pretty well over to Boomkin. Monkarn at 20% health, triple Cyclones onto Burley, and man, the Bergen Boys are sweating. Monkarn could just die. He's stunned up. Burley comes over. Will he be able to save him? They disarm Monkarn. He can't leech heal without his glaives to attack. Can they take him down in the disarm? Doesn't look like they will. He stabilizes, and now they're going after Morrow.
Yeah, this is one thing. When you play these caster cleaves and the other team's toddling behind a pillar, it's actually so difficult to generate pressure. But Wildcard Gaming making it look easy. Triple Solar Beams, Zeepai on top of the team. Now another triple stun setup. Forces Burley's Trinket. Beautiful leg sweep coming in from Looney. Healer versus healer. Doesn't like the idea of Burley being called the best shaman in Europe. Wants to kind of get some dominance on this Mistweaver. Now good Cyclone, slowing up the gameplay a little bit. We see the Obsidian Claws coming in, trying to just get a bit more damage as Burley is kind of line of sight behind the pillar, going for that strategy, but they get the triple Root Beam. Beautiful play, looking for the Hex, interrupted. Zeepai unable to find the crowd control. Burley looks like he should be able to escape for now and stabilize his team, but a close call and good pressure from Wildcard.
Beautiful crowd control here. Exactly what I was talking in the pregame. Paralyzed Shaman, Clone Death Knight, burst down Demon Hunter, knock him out of darkness. I mean, right now, Monkarn is looking like Wildcard Gaming's plaything. They're just having their way with him. He's not able to get anything going at the moment. Looney is maxed out on mana. I mean, at any moment, Burley could just die if they roll in for a leg sweep as well. They could maybe Ring of Peace them out into the open. There's so many options right now to take out the Bergen Boys on Tolvaron Arena. They're posted up in the Earthen Wall Totem at the moment, trying to take advantage of that damage reduction, but they're standing in line of sight of both Morrow and Zeepai. They could get crowd controlled. This is amazing pressure. Triple leg sweep by Looney. Huge damage. Cyclone follow-up. Excellent execution. Wildcard Gaming make this composition look absolutely insane.
That was nasty. That was really, really nasty from Looney. What a play. It happened twice in the game. Absolute domination. Wildcard Gaming, they're winning these games with ease.
They definitely are, right? And I do want to talk about just how they are able to do that, because we already talked about the potential situation that we go back and forth, and we would have another game like this. So it is really important to keep in mind, even if it stays on script and we do see a rebuttal in the next game, we could end up right back here. So Zico, actually break down how they were able to make that victory look so easy.
I mean, it's the way they're setting these crowd controls up. They're getting the root solar beam on the healer. They're getting, an ink cap on the DK into a clone. Lightning lasso on the demon hunter, followed by a big, nasty earth shock. I think I saw 150k earth shocks coming out of Z by this game. And, I mean, you are going to land a kill like that. And with everyone stacking at the pillar like that, they're able to find triple solar beams, they're able to find triple leg sweeps, and that's what sets everything up. It always starts with one of those instant AoE CCs, and then there's the follow-up, and they always have the damage to back it up too. So this comp looked it looked pretty good.
Yeah, and this is what we could potentially expect to see if we do make it to a Game 5 as well. Now, coming into this one, we do expect to see some changes in the composition now that the Bergen boys are going to have that advantage with how the format does actually work. After you come off of a loss, you get to pick the map. Then your opponent is going to pick their composition, and then with full information, with full knowledge, you then pick your composition. But even with the Bergen boys having the advantage, it wasn't like we went to their favored game and they looked as dominant as Wildcard Gaming does, right? Wildcard Gaming, when they do have the advantage, look incredibly dominant. But it doesn't seem impossible for Wildcard Gaming to maybe close it out here. Sid, what do we expect to see in this next one when we do actually get into Game 4?
They blind lock Thunder, but probably with Mistweaver Monk. Wildcard Gaming, that is. And then Bergen boys probably play Demon Hunter DK again. And whether or not they take it, I don't know. The Mistweaver could be a lot different. But I don't imagine Boomkin Ellie on the small map. They don't want to get the Destruction Warlock. Actually, maybe, because it's Dalaran, if they locked the Destruction Warlock, they can just line of sight, dot everybody up, and try and get a damp kill. They have some choices here if they don't feel like the Thunder was going to work, but I feel like they can safely just do Thunder, go in between. It's something that Bergen boys might not be prepared for, and even if they lose, then they just go Ashamains. What are you going to do? DHDK? Boomkin Ellie again. What are you going to do? Warlock? Warrior Mage. What are you going to do? Like, you're in a checkmate spot, so Wildcard Gaming could do anything they want right here, in my mind. Like, they could throw anything at them and try and surprise them.
Yeah, this is really the moment of truth. We know that we're going to Dalaran Sewers, but it all comes down to what Wildcard Gaming decides to do right here. They only have a few seconds left to actually lock in their composition, but they're going to do it. They're going to go for the Moonkin and the Ellie on Dalaran Sewers. Zico, how do you feel about this choice?
It's a good map, not. Usually I have some kind of criticism saying, oh no, they should have went Blade's Edge or they should have went here. I don't think it matters too much in the grand scheme of things. Dalaran is a pretty good pick. I think either small map in this matchup is going to be just fine here. But, we talked about it a little bit in the pregame. Bergen boys, they need to win here, which I don't think is going to be that easy actually. And then they also need to win, basically the matchup that we just saw. On a map like Ashaman, so they're super behind in the series right now, and they need to try to find their footing. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do it. I like that Wildcard swapped out the Holy Paladin, and now they're just going. They swapped out the Warrior too, and they're just going with this comp until forced off.
Yeah, that is the thing too. They have the wiggle room to play this composition healing stat, and then if they lose, they just play the same composition on a big map. The Bergen boys are forced to answer it right here and right now.
Yeah, Bergen boys got to win this one. And for Wildcard, I think it makes sense, right? Like, they had 2 dominant wins in this series with the Moonkin Elemental. It's tough to criticize them for trying to lock it in here. There's some stuff where you can try Thunder with Mistweaver, you can try Thunder with maybe even Resto Druid, honestly, wouldn't be terrible, but they're going to stick with their tried and true. And it is just so scary, even when you've got the Destruction Warlock on the map, who is obviously a devastating force, very tanky, very disruptive to any other kill attempts. On Dalaran, you can get those big beams, you can get the lassos around the pillar, you can kind of channel it as you run around to avoid interrupts. There's a lot of things that Wildcard Gaming can do, and they are the very best on these classes, so I wouldn't put it past them finishing off the series right now.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about all of the permutations of Thunder that you can run right now. None of them are proven yet in this series. It's one of those things where the Bergen boys, they were able to take it down once. Yes, changing which healer you bring would make a huge impact. One of them might be the answer to be winning these series easily. But figuring it out right now, you just don't have a long enough series to really make that do work for you. It seems to make a lot of sense to just say, okay, answer this Moonkin, answer this crit chicken right here, right now. If you don't, you're getting sent back home, Bergen boys. You're no longer be a part of this tournament. They're going to get to change the history on this matchup. When we did see it on Friday, it was the Bergen boys who were able to come out on top. But let's jump down to Dalaran Sewers and see if Wildcard Gaming's going to be able to earn their spot in the grand final.
You know, if I was the Bergen boys, I actually think I would have picked Asha mains. And then if they pick Boomkin Ellie, you play Destro, and you won that before. And then you take Asha mains away for Game 5. Because right now, even if they win here, they don't take Asha mains away. And what are they going to do on Asha mains to Warrior Mage or Moonkin Ellie? I actually think they might have thrown the series just on map pick if they lose.
Well, I have to see. They have to win this one first. I mean, Dalaran's definitely a favorable matchup, right? With the Windwalker and the Mistweaver. You have two knocks on the pillar. You have the melee who's going to easily be able to be in his Transcendence range. But, I mean, if you're really confident in the matchup, then maybe you're right. You got to think about Game 5 as well. And that Asha main's takeaway could be the difference, but let's see if they can win Game 4 first. Bergen boys caught up in a lasso in the early stages. It looks like it's just kind of stalling from Wildcard. It's not the aggression we saw from them in the previous game.
Morrow and Looney getting knocked off the side there. Vuxy pushing forward. Zeepai out in midfield. Thunderstorms Vuxy off to the corner. Interrupting that Chaos Bolt. Good positioning on his part. Zeepai and Morrow, their main goal is to just not stand next to each other, line of sight Dark Soul, and avoid damage, while maximizing their damage over time effects, the Flame Shock, the Moonfire, the Sunfire. Wait for a Solar Beam opportunity, but it can be very difficult. You need to crowd control the Windwalker. They do. Beautiful execution. That Lightning Lasso timed exactly on the Solar Beam into a leg sweep. He can't use Tiger's Lust to get Burley out of the Solar Beam. Now a Paralyzed to follow up. They can't get the Cyclone. Vuxy stops it with the Mortal Coil, and Dark Soul is up. They need to be careful. They need to line of sight Vuxy. They're pulling back downstairs. Morrow charges into Vuxy. The Cyclone gets the Cyclone on the Dark Soul, totally shutting it down, and Vuxy is patient. He's not using his Gladiator's Medallion. He doesn't want to be susceptible to dying in a Lightning Lasso, playing it patient for a later game kill, and it does make sense. The Destruction Warlock is pretty much king of the wizards. Any wizard matchup, you want a Destro on your team if the other team doesn't have one. You can just win with pressure. Those Chaos Bolts are always threatening, and you can run the healer out of mana, but Burley gets Cyclone. This is devastating at the moment. Munkarn trades out Touch of Karma. They might just cut through it. Actually swapping to Vuxy with a Lightning Lasso. Zeepai is owning. Vuxy down at 20%. Burley is still crowd controlled. Now another Cyclone to follow up. Touch of Death from Munkarn. He's trying to pull out a miracle, but he gets Cycloned and a Solar Beam combo. That's going to be the Hellstone immediately, but Stormkeeper is up. Zeepai still has a huge amount of damage available. Munkarn takes it out with the Fortified Brew. Paralyze on Looney. Do they have the leg sweep? Doesn't look like it. Vuxy gets Cycloned. Both sides trading effectively. It's close to call.
Yeah, this is a really close game. I mean, you talk about Warlocks being the dominant class in a lot of these caster versus caster matchups, but Elementals are pretty disruptive. You've got your Wind Shear, you've got the Grounding Totem, the Hex, the Lightning Lasso, a lot of tools to disrupt this Warlock and kind of break up. And I think that's why Vuxy did save his Trinket on the Cyclone. He knew that if he used it at that moment, he wasn't going to get a kill, and he might not have had it at a more crucial stage. Now we see infinite crowd control coming in from Maro. He's able to get Cyclones on Burley with ease. Vuxy is very low, has to trade out his Wool, might die anyways. They do have access to that Life Cocoon if required. DR Hex looks like they aren't going to force it out. Burley greeting that one, but it's a big force once again. Wildcard Gaming looking great in Game 4.
All right, they could just close it out. I think the map is backfiring here. Bergen boys could be losing the series on map pick alone to Wildcard Gaming in the rematch as they look to get their revenge. They want to face off against Method Black in the finals, but they might not be able to. Z-Pi stunned up out in midfield. Looney locked out. He activates the fortified elixir to boost his life cocoon just in time to save Z-Pi. What a close call. Now Morrow being swapped to the dangers of standing out in midfield against a Destruction Warlock. Vuxy getting thunderstormed off the side. Morrow gets Ring of Peace back into his line of sight. Chaos Bolt after Chaos Bolt lobbed after Morrow. He's going to retreat back to the boxes. Looney's waiting for him to come in line of sight and should be able to pick him up. Monkarn charging in, looking potentially for a leg sweep in the future. Not finding it just yet. Fist of Fury flying into Z-Pi. Pre-Tremor Totem here from Vuxy. No Fear is going to be landed. Burley in a Cyclone, but on diminishing return, maybe a bit of a missed timing. They Cyclone Monkarn, they swap over to Vuxy, but Z-Pi actually has to Astral Shift. I mean, all of the Bergen boys were crowd controlled, and it was Z-Pi that had to use a defensive cooldown. That is the difference in terms of pressure between the compositions.
Yeah, and that's really scary now because, as you can see, the Touch of Death was not committed there by Monkarn, so that's going to be available for Z-Pi. They force out the Life Cocoon as well. They could easily win the game and tie up this series, taking us to a Game 5 if they can get a good connection with that Touch of Death. There's no wall, there's no Cocoon to answer. They've just got to get the connection. Are they going to be able to do it? Mara's a little bit low. Vuxy, defensive Solar Beam coming in, just trying to stall it out. They recognize that Bergen boys are starting to take the momentum in this game. Looks like they're throwing damage onto Mara here. They force out the Buckskin. Could look for a swap on him, but I really do think the Z-Pi is the kill target if they can just get over to him. The in-cap comes through. Do they have the stun? It doesn't look like it. And Wildcard Gaming, they're getting away with this one. Now the damage coming in onto Z-Pi. Do they have crowd control? For Looney, it doesn't look like it. They don't commit the Touch of Death. That could have been the kill there if they'd gone for it. But instead, they're being very patient with their offensives. And that could come back to bite them with Life Cocoon just around the corner.
All right, this is a game that has been so intense that 5 minutes have elapsed at this time. We're into dampening. Mana is even between the healers, but they're both crowd controlled. Currently, Burley ahead, activating his defense prior to it, but there's no follow-up onto Looney, so he will stabilize now as well. Who's going to take it? Bergen boys have to, or they'll be out of the tournament in this rematch. Monkarn, Lightning Lasso, wrap around the corner. Solar Beam on Burley. Beautiful combo of crowd control between Z-Pi and Morrow. Monkarn going to touch a Karma. Are they going to try and crack through it? Doesn't look like they have enough damage. Some damage now being lobbed off onto Vuxy as well as Burley. Vuxy just posted up out in midfield, looking to try and bait Z-Pi or Morrow. But Morrow and Z-Pi are more than happy to just Flame Shock, Moonfire, sit at the boxes, wait for some big Earth Shocks, try and burst the target down. Touch of Death rolling onto Z-Pi. He knocks Monkarn away to try and stall. He gets Ring of Peace out of line of sight. Looney needs to get over here to save Z-Pi. Touch of Death is about to explode. Z-Pi takes a big hit. He gets stunned again, but is now in line of sight. Paralyzed on Looney. They have follow-up. Monkarn Cyclone. He can't do damage. Burley's Hexed. He can't heal. Monkarn gets Lightning Lassoed immediately out. He breaks into a leg sweep. He activates the Fortified Elixir. He transcendences back up to the boxes, but his healer is still crowd controlled. He's hiding for his tournament life at the moment. Burley rolls over, catches a big heal, and Monkarn stays alive.
Yeah, very nicely done there by Burley, able to keep his team in the fight. They still have access to Life Cocoon on both sides, that powerful shield ability for the Mistweavers. We'll have to see if they can start forcing cooldowns. In terms of mana, slightly toward Bergen boys, though we're going to see those innovates on cooldowns. So full CS onto Looney. Vuxy looking to get aggressive, though I can't really see too much damage coming out here. Looks like Mara is the target of choice, but now that they've used that counterspell, we're going to see Lightning Lasso come through, we're going to see Cyclones coming through. Could have been a mistake there from Vuxy, unless he can get some work done with it. Looney out of crowd control now, able to easily top off his Moonkin, and the Destruction Warlock is the one on the back end, forcing out that all-important Life Cocoon. Now Wildcard Gaming have an opening as dampening starting to build up here.
Yeah, the burst from both sides is quite high in terms of its potential. Looney is slightly behind on mana. I feel like it's the first time I've ever seen Looney behind on mana so far. Solar Beam onto two players, Monkarn Cyclone. I love this cross crowd control to make sure that the Solar Beam sits into a full Cyclone. It's beautiful teamwork. Burley has to use Gladiator's Medallion, but he gets stunned on it now. This could be devastating. Vuxy's got nowhere really to go. He's trying to fear spam, but he fears Looney. Bit reckless. Now Cyclone below half. Looney's going to come out of the leg sweep into another leg sweep. Nice timing here between the two monks. Ring of Peace to knock them back out into the open. Can they capitalize? Can they get a Hex on Burley? Z-Pi gets interrupted. Looney's still crowd controlled. He can't heal just yet. Morrow feared away. Are they going to activate the Life Cocoon and play it efficiently or hold on? Dark Soul's coming up pretty soon. They would like to have Life Cocoon for it, but it's costing Looney a lot of mana to heal without it. Vuxy Lightning Lassoed. Doesn't look like anyone can stop Z-Pi. He's just having free reign with that lasso. Yippee-ki-yay, Z-Pi.
Yeah, the lasso's looking devastating, but so is that Chaos Bolt, and we've seen that kill people before. There's no cooldowns for that one, unfortunately, so Bergen Boys not able to find the game there. The Life Cocoon, a big win for them. Now they do have that Dark Soul. Infernals are building up. Stacks here for Vuxy. He's going to go for big damage here, uses the Mortal Coils. Can they get connection? Really nice coil path for Maro. He gets put just around the box. They're not able to get any more crowd control. He should be able to go for a Cyclone. He gets reflected by Vuxy. He might look to set up some Dark Soul bolts, but no. Maro Trinkets gets that Cyclone. Now Fear's coming in. Triple crowd control once again. Leg sweep comes in. So many leg sweeps on Zeepai. I'm surprised he's still got a foot to stand on at this point in the game, but he's able to thunderstorm them away, get on his legs in the Ghost Wolf, and keep himself up. Now they're looking to reverse the pressure once again. Such a back and forth game here. 25% healing reduction for both healers to contend with. And again, as you said, Sid, Looney is the one slightly behind on that mana resource.
All right, Bergen Boys are wild bulls. Will Zeepai be able to corral them in time and find victory to get to the grand finals? They're so close here, but Zeepai gets stunned up. Looney's going to have a lot of healing ahead of himself, and he's just going to drop that Life Cocoon. He doesn't want to waste any more mana. Burley is so far ahead now in that regard. Will they be able to win with such a deficit? They're moving in. Maro wants to get crowd control on Burley, and it looks like Looney wanted to try and drink, but he's going to crowd control Munkarn. Vuxy takes a huge hit. Burley's in crowd control. Munkarn breaks it to disrupt it, getting Burley out of the solar beam, but into a cap totem. Can they get follow-up? They interrupt the Hex. Beautiful spell lock. That spell lock could win them the game. Looney's trying to get into line of sight to save the day, but he walks into a paralyze. Beautiful timing into the leg sweep. Excellent execution by the Bergen Boys. They will be not tamed in Game 5, but that Game 5 is going to be so difficult.
It definitely is, but it feels really good to be getting to see this one to go all the way to Game 5. It definitely is going to do this matchup justice the second time that we've gotten to see it. Both of them were Game 5s. Zico, let's break down how we got there in the first place. How are we actually seeing this scenario where the entire series has been extended all of the way to the final moments?
Well, I feel like I gotta agree with what Sid was saying in the pregame. They should have picked Asha mains and played this comp because they have won with it, and it all comes down to, you know, it all goes back to the blind pick, as it typically does when we got these Game 5 series. Both of the teams, they're trying to win, you know, on the maps where they aren't advantaged, and right now it's looking like Wildcard are going to be holding all of the cards in that game number 5. Still, though, I think Wildcard actually had a pretty good performance in this game. They were able to hold on for a really long time. They were able to, they kind of almost reached their win condition, which is, you know, getting a little bit to dampening, and then they can try to take the Warlock down. But I think Looney, he went for a crowd control, and he was really far away from Zeepai, and then when he crossed to get back to Zeepai, he got caught off in some more CC, and they had the damage with that Destro Warlock to take Zeepai down.
Yeah, I think that, Sid, you did bring up a really good point, trying to forecast how to utilize the maps the best way possible. Sometimes it's a little bit more than just go big, go small. And if you overlook that, I think you can end up in some really dire situations. Now, with that said, what map do you think we do end up seeing this final game played out on? Yeah, it seems like it's just 100% going to be on Ashmains. And healing stat with Ashmains potentially being the map that we do go to, how do you feel that this final game will go?
I mean, I would be a fool for not saying that Wildcard has the upper hand, right? Like with that Ashmains pick and the composition advantage as well, getting to lock that comp with the other teams in mind. So, I mean, they're definitely, if we go back to what happened on Friday, they won the grand, and it's looking favourable that they'll be able to take this one the whole way. Sid made a good call out. I mean, taking away Ashmains would suddenly make Game 5 a lot more interesting, I think, between the two teams. But regardless of that, we've seen Bergen Boys come up with wins out of nowhere in some of these games, like the Game 2 where they one-shot Looney's Paladin. I still wouldn't put them out of it just yet.
Yeah, I feel like we definitely can't take either of these teams out of it yet. I think we would all agree as well that they definitely deserve to be in the top 3. But we need to figure out who is going to make it all the way to that grand final. Which team, I mean, after we watched Bergen Boys play against Mythic Black, I think we would all probably agree, Zico, that Wildcard Gaming has the best chance of winning the grand final, most likely out of these two teams. Do you think that there is a scenario where Bergen Boys might actually be able to bring this one back and potentially bring down the entire grand final?
I kind of want to see the comps before I make that prediction, but They're in a tough spot right now because on one hand, you lock in the Warlock, you're going to be in a tough spot because all of a sudden you're going to fight the, Windwalker, the Warrior Mage of Wildcard, their main comp, and you're going to have to beat them. We saw Enigma try that, and they were unable to, right? So that's poison number one. Poison number two, play against Boomkin Ellie as melee cleave. You have it, pick one, and enjoy.
Yeah, I feel like this is just like it's one of the scariest places you could potentially be, right? If you are the Bergen boys, and I'm excited to actually see this draft start and get underway and figure out if any tricks are up their sleeve as of right now, and also I want to see if the call out of Ashman's does. Yep, there it is. It does end up being the pick. Seemed like it was going to happen, and the Bergen boys going to be locking in their composition as well. They're going to have to play out of their minds.
Frost,
but it might work.
Sure
It's Frost and it's a Mistweaver as well.
I like the Mistweaver.
Mistweaver makes
I don't like
sense.
the Frost.
Yeah. What?
Frost is quite terrible against double caster team.
What makes it so bad against the double caster teams?
Well, the Unholy DK just has more passive damage with dots, with the pets. Basically, the Unholy DK, if he gets uptime and he has a little bit more uptime, he can do more. Whereas the Frost DK, he doesn't really do too much, but every, Blinding Sleet grip combo that they do with the leg sweep, so every 1 minute-ish, they can do a really, really big setup. So that's basically the key difference.
There's no way they can go after Looney with this, right? If he locks in Mistweaver,
They could
That's
YOLO.
that's the only thing I can think of that a Frost DK brings.
Yeah.
Not Unholy is like that increased cooldown on the rolls for the Mistweaver monk, and then obviously they have 2 monks to chase. But Looney not even going to lock that in. He's going to lock in the Paladin. I still think that might be the answer, to be honest. The Paladin fell over in game 2. As you say, Zika, I don't see them having the damage to take down Elemental or Moonkin. It's got to be grips on the Paladin into goes on him, I think, for sure.
A little bit spicy. I mean, this is a pretty spicy pick to come out here in the final hour. I feel like we were all in the state where it felt like we knew what we were going to see. We were ready to buckle up for that game 5 and let it all come to play out and get to our grand final. But now, all of a sudden, we are all pretty surprised to see something like this happen. Let's actually talk about those potential ways that the Bergen boys can come out on top. Healing Set called out a few of them. Supatis, do you agree? Do you think that is how Bergen boys can actually come out on top?
Well, now that there isn't a Mistweaver for them to kill, the Heartstop Delirium is a lot worse. I mean, no one on Wildcard Gaming really cares about their mobility overall. Maybe Morrow, but he can just shapeshift, so it's not really the end of the world. They do have a lot of space. The only way I really see them losing this game is if they just positionally mess up. If Looney's standing too close to the target and then gets gripped into a double chill streak, that's definitely a cooldown, maybe a kill. It's not the Demon Hunter Death Knight, so I don't think it's nearly as threatening onto the Paladin. And if you chase the Paladin, Burley's getting hexed, he's getting cycloned. You're going to die if that happens. But if you don't go on the Paladin, I actually think Looney should play Repentance. And he can Repentance Burley if he's chasing Z-Pyre or if they're chasing Z-Pyre or Morrow around.
Here's a question, and this might be a bit out there, like everything that Sid just said. But what about Ineffable Truth on a
He should
Frost
be
Death
doing
Knight?
Oh.
Do you think that could be good? Because Frost Death Knights are so cooldown dependent. Like they're outside cooldowns, they're essentially not threatening. And then as soon as they have like Chill Streak and Pillar of Frost and Death Grip and all these things start rotating back up, maybe they lose too much with the verse and the gushings. But I would love it.
Yeah.
The problem is that you need the lockdown as well. That's the one thing the Frost DK doesn't have, right? So, I mean, Monkern is still going to have, a really long cooldown on his leg sweep. So it would have to be Burley potentially getting in there. It could be interesting, though, because I feel like Ineffable Truth especially is just one of those corruptions that people are still figuring out what it can do, how to use it, what classes benefit the most from it, building strategies around it. I feel like this is something that's going to keep evolving for, a couple of months until we really see what that corruption can do.
Well, the weird thing with Ineffable Truths, too, I mean, we talk about it so much, how different games have that war of attrition, or they have that script that you go to. You're trading cooldowns, and you're trying to get the cooldowns when it's not their time, right? You're trying to get a value trade on a cooldown. When you have Ineffable Truths, you can't really go by that script nearly as much. And like you said, Zico, without having that practice to actually know, oh, okay, it changed, and also not having the foresight to know how much Ineffable Truths is potentially being run and what could really happen, it can change that entire dynamic. And when you need to pull out somewhat of a surprise victory here on the side of the Bergen boys, it might be the time to try to rely on something like Ineffable Truths. But the gates are going to open right now. Whoever wins this Ashmane's Fall will be going to the grand final against Method Black.
All right. Game number 5. Who's going to take it? This Moonkin Ellie has dominated melee cleave after melee cleave. Bergen boys throw a curveball with the Windwalker Death Knight Mistweaver, a composition that they've not played yet. Will the surprise be enough? They're chasing after Morrow. Looney positions 40 yards away off to the right side. Morrow jumps to Looney on the Death Grip. That was an insane wild charge. They avoid the double blinding sheet. They get a Hex on Burley into a hammer. Are they going to swap over to Burley? They could. They're lobbing out the Star Surges, but Zeepai's not really there. He's making his way over. He's not able to get there in time to get a kill. Now, Burley will be a lot more susceptible to dying to those swaps than a Restoration Shaman. And he actually died on a Shaman in a swap, so we'll have to wait and see how he deals with it. Huge pressure right now onto both Munkarn and Joel. Solar Beam on Burley. He needs the Tiger's Lust. Munkarn rolls over for it, but now he gets stunned on the Tiger's Lust into a full Hex. Karma has to trade. Munkarn gets cloned on his roll away. His Karma will be ending shortly. Joel is getting set up on and primed. Munkarn instantly lightning lassoed out of it. This is insane pressure from Wildcard Gaming in Game 5.
Yeah, I gotta say, so far in this game, I just googled domination and it came up with this one in favor of Wildcard Gaming. So truly definite gameplay coming in. They have to find something here, Bergen boys. Maro seems to be their main target, but he's just been doing such a good job evading. And we talked about it, the Frost Death Knight, sure, it increases the cooldown of some of those mobility spells, such as the Wild Charge, but he's a druid. He's still going to be shifting in and out, avoiding. He has thorns. He has so many things that these melees are going to have to contend with. And on top of that, Zeepai and Looney are just all over them. Another Hammer of Justice comes in onto Burley. He trinkets again into a full Hex. This is just absolute disaster for the Bergen boys. They need to find something. This is Game 5.
Oh, Joel got a grip and a double, but they don't follow up with a stun, and now he's just out in midfield all by his lonesome. Huge damage. Burley fakes out the Solar Beam. Nice fake out by Burley. He's going to be able to freely heal for quite some time now as a result. Get his team back into the fight. Looney taking some damage amidst all of the chaos, topping himself off with some Holy Lights, but now pressure is in favor of Wildcard Gaming. Burley has to Life Cocoon right away. Joel could get swapped too. He's got Anti-Magic Zone. He's waiting. He wants to line it up with Incarnation, but Mara's Incarnation could proc as well from an Azerite trait, so will he trade it for that or not? Lightning Lasso over onto the Death Knight. No cross crowd control, so not going to really be too devastating. They didn't have a Solar Beam. They're just cycling that as much as possible. Hammer of Justice. If they get crowd control after this, I don't know how Joel stays alive. Full Cyclone. No Anti-Magic Zone. 5 seconds away from him. If he gets knocked out of this Anti-Magic Zone, he's dead in the water. He gets Cycloned at low health. Beautiful crowd control by Morrow. Can they flip the crowd control over onto Burley? Nope. They get denied by Joel. Burley tops off him. And now Bergen boys stay in the tournament.
Yeah, I gotta say, when Burley is out of crowd control for that rare 20% of the game, he does a lot of healing, so he's just immediately able to top off his team there. Very nicely done. He's looking very comfortable on the Mistweaver, which is one thing I had a question of. We know he's been playing mostly the Shaman, though we have seen him on the Mistweaver a little bit. Now a full Root Beam comes through. Mara taking a bit of damage. We can see Joel. He actually has a thing from beyond chasing him. He Chains of Ices it, recognizing that that would kill him with this current health pool. Life Cocoon comes through, gets squeaked in by Burley. Now they're going to swap a little bit of damage over to him, but it's Bergen boys who have the grip. They have the chill streak. They're trying to set up damage here, but looks like Looney should be able to easily heal through this with Avenging Wrath available. They're going to have to swap up their strategy once again here. Freedom on Zeepai. He's kiting away as well as the Bergen boys are kited into the open, and once again, potentially their demise against Wildcard Gaming.
All right, Mana slightly in favor of Looney, but I actually wouldn't count the Bergen boys completely out. They have been showing signs of life here on match point. I mean, look at Morrow's health right now. 50%. Divine Favor. He gets it, but it doesn't even top him off. Hex onto Windwalker. Lightning Lasso onto DK to stop the interrupt. Good cross crowd control there. They could just go for that as a safe setup and run Burley out of mana and win like that. I would like to see that. It's just a safer line of play at the moment. They already have that advantage. We see the Bergen boys retreat and duck for cover at the boxes. Now Monkarn charging out. Joel making his way downtown. He's got Pillar of Frost ready. Will he be able to get a lot of damage with the next Chill Streak? Drops that Cinder Ghost. Gets Cyclone. Unfortunately, it's Cycloned on a Thing from Beyond, so it's going to immune the damage. Bit unfortunate. Burley stunned up. Monkarn cloned. Beautiful crowd control once again by Wildcard Gaming. Lightning Lasso out of the clone as they swap off the anti-magic shield. Joel sets up with a double blinding sheet into a double leg sweep. Immediately, we see Morrow trinket. He knows if he stands next to the Paladin and Chill Streak bounces, it's going to be a KO. But now Joel wants to just hit something. He's like, I see you, Boomkin. I want to hit you, but almost just dies 2 seconds moving forward. Now Cyclone at low health. I mean, Wildcard Gaming are looking like they have full control.
Yeah, certainly, and that was a big overlap too. That was the anti-magic zone and the life cocoon. Now Burley just caught up in a full root beam. Cyclone, there was a small gap where he was able to get a heal in, but they're just struggling so much. Dampening starting to ramp up here for both the sides. Full Hammer of Justice. Do they have any follow-up? Maybe a low Cyclone coming in from Maru here. He's not able to find it, so nicely done by Bergen boys to break up that crowd control chain. Now the Cyclone lands, but heals should be able to come through off of this. There's no more crowd control for Burley, and to their credit, they're still in this fight. They still have opportunities to win it. Looney has a lot of cooldowns, but Maru's health is not stable at a lot of this game. You do start to get the feeling that this Moonkin in deep dampening with his lack of kiting could end up dying, but they need to keep Joel alive for a little bit longer. Burley uses the life cocoon, but he gets swapped too. This is so scary. The Star Surge is coming in. Is he going to stay alive? The grip to deny the Hodge. Beautiful play from Joel, keeping his Mistweaver in the fight.
All right, Burley makes it out of that one alive. They're on match point. Can Bergen boys beat Wildcard Gaming in 2 series? It would be absolutely legendary on their part, but they're so far behind. I'm hyping them up, but they're just getting knocked down. Huge damage on Joel. He sustains through that with Death Strike. How on earth did he heal through that by himself? That was insane damage. Coming out of the Cyclone, running back to the boxes with his teammates, huddled up, trying to come up with a game plan. What are we going to do? The Boomkin doesn't have a Gladiator's Medallion. We could grip him onto the Paladin, try and Chill Streak. I think that's their only option at the moment. They're just trying to make sure they're topped off before going in. Maybe mount up even if they can. Z-Pie's posted up. Looney drinks to full mana. Looney's like, I'm not risking anything. You guys want to play defensive and turtle all day? I'm getting full mana. Looney gets Ring of Peace around, or Morrow gets Ring of Peace around the corner. They're trying to burst him down. Looney repositions. Lightning Lasso interrupted. Beautiful Mind Freeze by Joel. Pillar of Frost is active, but no Death Grip. They grip Morrow back behind the pillar. Burley stunned up. Z-Pie is going to get a Hex. Nobody can stop it. But they overlap it with the Solar Beam. I'm not a big fan of that crowd control chain right now from Wildcard Gaming. That's the first time I would say that they made a significant error. Double blinding sheet and a double leg sweep. Morrow triggers instantly and gets out of that one. Thunderstorm to knock the Death Knight, but he actually passes Joel back to Morrow. He's just going to happily hit Morrow. Monkarn staying on target. How is Burley going to do this? He's only got 40% mana to Looney's 90%.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to come down to mana in favor of Bergen boys, but they're going to have to find damage. I mean, they still do have pressure on Maru. Outside of those Avenging Rafts, which is down currently for 45 seconds, it's tough for Looney to keep Maru at full health, and that's preventing him from doing damage. He's stuck in bear form for a lot of this game. It's up to Z-Pie to really create that solo pressure, but he's doing a great job. The Joel behind the pillar, Obsidian Claw on him right now, really taking a lot of damage. The anti-magic zone forced out. Now Cyclone's coming in, and this is where Maru can really take control of the game. They have Joel on the defensive, they have him on the back foot. There's no life cocoon for a few more seconds, and both players taking heavy damage here from Wildcard Gaming. Game 5, Grand Finals on the line. Joel's still alive, but it's so close.
Don't hit into thorns, Joel! Don't hit into thorns! If I was Burley, I'm screaming. They're all hitting into thorns. Burley has to heal through this. He life cocoons. They stabilize, but the entire team of Wildcard Gaming is 100%. Burley gets stunned up into another stun. Everybody is getting bursted and blasted by Wildcard Gaming's chicken laser beam composition. They're just pinned at the pillar, deep into dampening. A couple more Star Surges, and that's going to be it. Joel has to run out. He needs a Death Strike target. Death Strike after Death Strike on Morrow. Z-Pie gets gripped away from the follow-up crowd control. Nicely done, but now he doesn't have grip aggressively. Burley fully hexed. I mean, you have to trinket that, right? 4 more seconds, he has to. He trinkets Hex. Stormkeeper is lined up. The damage just doesn't stop from Wildcard Gaming.
Yeah, it's brutal, but they do force out the Hand of Sacrifice. And again, I'm trying to find those little opportunities for Bergen boys because they are few and far between, as Joel should die here. The life cocoon in 1 second. They're able to get it off. They keep him alive. Now, let's look at the cooldowns for Looney. No Sacrifice, no Avenging Wrath for 45 seconds, and 25% dampening. Maybe, just maybe, they can get this kill onto Maro. He's very low on defensive himself. It's just the bike skin, of course, that he can use to keep himself alive. They're setting it up here. They don't get a second player with that chill streak, so it's not going to do too much damage, but they do have a connection. Now a full hex coming out over onto Burley. He's in a lot of trouble. Joel, surely this is the end. There's nothing left. Death Strike's coming through desperately. They're able to get behind a pillar, and somehow, Sid, he's still alive.
If he wins this game, man, it's absolutely insane. Like, no way, everybody's dead. Joel, you're all alone. There's no one to Death Strike. He grips Morrow. He wants to Death Strike. Please, trying to heal back up. Everybody is rotting. The power of the dot to 30% dampening is surely sinking in at this point. Joel getting bursted once again. Cocoon in 1 second. Life Cocoon is up. He presses it right before the Hex. Morrow is suddenly low on health. Looney has to pop Avenging Wrath. Signs of life here. Morrow is still not topped off. Monkarn Cyclone, though, at low health. Burley has got a lot of work to do on this Mystery River, rolling away from Looney, trying to avoid that Hammer of Justice, repositioning the grip Morrow. He's trying to escape. Fists of Fury are flying. Avenging Wrath is actually fading pretty shortly. Don't attack into Thorns! Thorns is up! Stop it! Stop hitting into Thorns right now. Please stop hitting into Thorns. They're just attacking into Thorns. There's no way, Joel. Anti-magic zone gets dropped. He's hiding in the purple barrier. Burley is still cycloned. Joel wants to Death Strike, but no one's next to him. I need to leave the barrier and try and Death Strike. All right, I'm going to run away with Wraithwalk instead. Oh no, a thing from beyond!
Oh no! No, the thing from beyond! That's so tragic.
Oh, man.
Oh dear. What a way to go, huh?
I mean, hey, he's going to go out with a bang. Ultimately, though, I think the Bergen boys managed to make this final matchup much more than spicy. They managed to make it much closer than we expected, Zico. We thought that this